Night Call is an extremely thought-provoking game, one that makes you dwell on the ins and outs of modern society as a whole. And by the time you finish it, you'll be left with a feeling of joy, but also a heavy heart. I will, however, say that this game is not for everyone. Devoid of explosions or intense gunfights, instead trading those moments for deep conversation and emotional impact. While not everyone needs those high-octane moments to stay enthralled, the slower, more methodical pace of Night Call will lose those who prefer the heart-bumping action games like Apex Legends or Call of Duty. Despite this fact, I believe Night Call to be a near flawless masterwork, and if by the end of this video I can convince you to at least check it out, I'll consider it mission accomplished. The story of Night Call is one that hooks you almost immediately. A cab driver with a troubled past is the most recent victim of a serial killer who's been terrorizing Paris. He awakes 2 weeks later from a medically induced coma to find that he is the sole survivor of this attack, and also the only person to escape this killer's clutches alive. As life returns to normal for this troubled individual, he's approached by one of the investigators on the case, and informed that the DA wants this case solved, and you being the sole survivor are the closest thing they have to the killer. Plus, he or she got into your cab once, maybe they will again. As tempting as an offer as this already is, there's a cherry on top for our protagonist. Help solve the case, or be framed for the murders. Corrupt police who want a case solved are willing to let you rot in a cell to appease the public. After all, you have done time, and for murder nonetheless. Being the sole survivor puts the odds against you in the court of law, and thus, our story begins. 1 week to solve the case, or else you'll be going down with the ship. While this is the main story for Night Call, there are well over 80 side stories to encounter as you roam the streets picking up passengers. Each person is unique and has their own life, with their own issues. Be it a priest who is questioning his faith after falling in love with a member of his congregation, all the way to a masked vigilante doing his best to clean up the streets while still maintaining his GPA. How you interact with these people, and even who you choose to interact with, is entirely up to you as you roam the streets of Paris. The final piece of gameplay revolves around your investigation board. Outside of the initial police records given to you by your friend on the force, you're looking for more information to attach to your board. Once these clues are obtained, it's up to you to link suspects with clues. Some are done for you, however, some may appear to be completely unrelated until you put together more of the puzzle. You may have your heart set on one suspect, only for your police contact to call you and inform you that their alibi checks out, sending you right back to the drawing board. All in all, there are 3 killers for you to attempt to track down, having entirely different suspects, motives, and even methods for killing their victims. Each of these 3 investigations took me about 3 hours, meaning that overall here you're looking at about 9 hours of campaign, and then an endless amount of time that you can spend with the free driving mode. However, obviously that's going to get old eventually. But you can attempt to fill out your Passadex, a Pokemon-like system of cataloging the different conversations you've had with passengers, as well as the choices you've made while talking to them. The gameplay of Night Call is not exactly what you would call engaging, and as somebody trying to sell you on a game, I understand that's not an appealing thing to hear, but hear me out. The basic gameplay revolves around clicking on people's icons around Paris to see where they need to go, and then taking them from point A to point B. However, it's what happens on the way that will engage you. Listening to the plights of your passengers while offering kind words or advice when possible will keep you getting back into the cab to see what else the citizens of Paris have to say. Outside of talking with people, you have a timer to keep an eye on, as you only have 1 week to solve this case. Every action costs you precious time. Do you choose to drive to an informant and find more clues on your attacker, or do you drive more citizens around to earn money to pay off your car, gas, and bills? This game revolves around a series of balancing acts. Spend too much time looking for clues and fall behind on your bills and potentially lose your job. On the contrary, spend too much time trying to keep up with your bills and sacrifice time that could be spent finding clues or even getting closer to solving this mystery. The series of checks and balances are intriguing, but not necessary, as if you want to ignore that stress altogether, you can choose to play the game on an easier difficulty, or even free roam mode that allows you to drive and pick people up freely without the burden of a timer. When it comes to the music and art style of Night Call, this might be the crowning jewel. Without the soundtrack, I think that it would be a perfectly fine game, but lacking that something special. The music here is that something special. Deep and dark foreboding tracks when driving somebody who may be deranged or just off, complemented by upbeat, inspiring tracks when somebody comes to you for help. These swings in mood and theme are captured so well here. The music keeps the immersion and is never over the top or forgettable. As I write out this script, I have the soundtrack playing in my ear. If you're at all curious, I'll link it in the description below. Check out the song A Peculiar Character and tell me you're not at least intrigued. Outside of the music, this game is just dripping style. The art here is immaculate. Be it the subtle gestures your passengers make as they change tone and become more emotional, or even the slow pan out to a Paris bistro or an airplane flying over the night sky. It all just oozes a style that is utterly captivating. No game is without flaw, and Nightcall is no exception. However, I feel that what is on offer here far outweighs these minor gripes I have with the game. Firstly, each killer is a different campaign, but each starts the exact same. You're attacked, you're in the hospital, you're blackmailed, and you have 7 days. This introduction can be rather long, and upon finishing your first investigation, eager to start the second, you may find yourself wondering, why do I have to watch all this again? Starting a new investigation seems to hit a reset button on more than just you as a character, as you may encounter the same people and hear the same dialogue. Given the vast cast of characters, though, this is less of an issue, as it seems several characters have what I would call a story progression, meaning that upon picking them up multiple times, you will hear the progression of their story. For example, a couple who are trying to have a baby but are in need of a donor, as they're both female. You can pick them up several times and hear about their dates and hear them weigh the pros and cons of each potential donor. However, if you were to pick them up, say, twice in one game, finish the story, and start over, the story would restart. This can lead to some monotony, as you may hear the same stories a few times on repeat playthroughs, and with a game where reading dialogue is center stage, it can no doubt be irritating. Some people say that this game is to be played only one time, as successive playthroughs just don't have the same magic. But I would beg to differ. The vast amount of characters, as well as their shifting roles, always intrigued me on subsequent playthroughs. For example, a man who was a killer on a previous playthrough was simply a citizen whom I could take from place to place in another, almost like it's some sort of multiverse situation. I have never actively taken the time out of my day to make a YouTube video for anything outside of a multimedia project. However, I was so moved by the story, the characters, and the art style of this game, I knew I just needed to talk about it. With that said, here I am, hoping to convince you to at least look into this wonderful little game. It's $20 on Steam and free with Xbox Game Pass, which even if it wasn't, the $20 price point is more than worth it. To reiterate my point from the beginning, this game is not for everyone, as there is little true gameplay here. Instead, you're treated to a cast of interesting characters to learn about, all while discovering more about yourself as a protagonist. If anything I've said here even slightly piqued your interest, then I cannot recommend this game enough to you. I promise you'll enjoy the time you spend in the streets of Nightcall.